Dr. Ted Naiman, Obesogenic Rat Chow. It's the same macros as the standard American diet.
Now, if we take it even one layer deeper and look at the electron transport chain, you're pumping all these protons across this membrane. It's like a little battery that powers your ATP synthase motor, and it spring loads all your ATP molecules. When you're just doing beta oxidation of fat, everything runs really smoothly. You're level loading your electron transport chain. The membrane potential is perfect. Everything's nice. Your body's designed to just live off of stored body fat. So just burning fat has to work perfectly. But you dump a bunch of glucose on top of this, and you overdrive complex 1, and you get too much membrane potential and too many reactive oxygen species, and you literally get something called glucose toxicity in your mitochondria. You can basically bust those suckers by trying to burn sugar on top of beta oxidation. Okay, let's take this into the real world, right? Real world. Here's a company that specializes in obesogenic rat chow. This is what they do. They make an obesogenic rat chow that people pay money for this stuff. It's supposed to make you as fat as possible, as fast as possible. I'm talking visceral obesity, liver fat, insulin resistance, diabetes, the whole thing. This obesogenic rat chow is very low in protein. It's really high in carbs if you look at the grams. It's vaguely, eerily similar to the standard American diets, which is pretty sad, right? Yeah. So we know how to make both animals and humans as fat as possible, as rapidly as possible. It's sugar and fat together, right? The obesogenic rat chow is a refined, processed, concentrated fat and sugar mixed together. It's usually cornstarch and vegetable oil or something like that. But it's low in protein, low in nutrients. It's just sugar and fat. And that is how you get anything as fat as possible, as rapidly as possible. You can feed humans donuts. It's pretty much the same thing. So we know how to get the very highest insulin levels, the most overfilled adipocytes, the worst body composition, the highest fat mass, the lowest lean mass. You do that by feeding high carb and high fat, right? And you keep everything else low. Sugar and fat, this is the absolute worst. We also know how to get your adipocytes the very smallest and how to get the very lowest insulin levels. And we know that thanks to natural bodybuilders and fitness models. We have studies that document how this is done. This is female fitness competitors. They achieve this low body fat, reducing carbohydrate intake while maintaining a high level of protein, resistance training, and moderate fat. So it's basically very low carb, high protein, moderate fat, and lifting. So we also know what calories got dumped into the American diet to cause the obesity epidemic over the past 60 years, right? Grains, oils, and sugars. This is flour, sugar, and oil. Or as I call it, the processed food trifecta, right? Flour, sugar, and oil. In 2010, 60% of all the American calories were flour, sugar, and oil. We're literally eating obesogenic rat chow, and we're just maxing out all our fat cells, right? I just want to point out that your adipocytes are there for daily fat flux. Your adipocytes are supposed to expand during the day when you're eating, shrink at night when you're fasting and living off of stored fat. And as long as you have plenty of room for fat flux, as long as your adipocytes are empty enough that you have plenty of room for this flux, everything's fine. That's how it's supposed to work. There's also a seasonal component to this fat flux piece. All energy on Earth comes from the sun. In the summertime, there's more sunlight. Plants make more sugar. Herbivores eat more sugar and they get fatter. Carnivores eat more fat from fatter herbivores and they get fatter. Omnivores, like humans, come along. We eat more sugar and more fat and we get really fatter. The classic example is a bear, right? This is a classic omnivore. And these are actual bear adipocytes. In the summer, they've got sugar. They eat fruit and honey and berries. And then in the winter time, everything changes, right? No more glucose at all. There's no plant sugars at all in the winter time. So they're just eating protein and fat. I just want to end by saying that in this country, we've made it summertime, the peak of summertime, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's just sugar and fat together, day after day after day. We've all maxed out our adipocytes. Half the planet's insulin resistant. And I think it's time a lot of us made it autumn, where there's a lot less plant sugars and way less glucose, so we can finally burn some fat for a change.
Electron transport chain, pumping protons across the mitochondria membrane. Like a little battery, it powers the ATP synthase motor. When doing beta oxidation of fat, everything runs smoothly. Dr. Naiman says, your body is designed to live off your own body fat, so burning fat works perfectly. But you dump a bunch of glucose on top of this, you overdrive the mitochondria complex 1. Too much membrane potential, too many reactive oxygen species, glucose toxicity. Obesogenic Rat Chow makes you as fat as possible, as fast as possible. Protein is low. Carbs are really high. Looks eerily similar to the standard American diet. Dr. Naiman cites a study, female bodybuilders. They reduced their carb intake, ate high protein, resistance training, moderate fat. They had excellent results. Breakdown of added calories. USDA data revealing the breakdown of added daily calories from grains, oils, sugars. Dr. Naiman says, we are eating obesogenic rat chow. Adipocytes with ideal fat flux. They expand during the day, shrink at night, so you can live off burning your own body fat. We have made it peak of summertime, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year with our diet. Sugar and fat together day after day. We can make it more like autumn. We can eat less sugar, less glucose, so we can burn our own body fat. Annotated and summarized. Easy to share with loved ones. The description below the title for this video has these summary points.